Hey, what's up, everybody? TJ, co-host of the Now Mind You Pod, back again with a new review of the latest chapter of Tokyo Revengers, chapter 244, titled The Showdown Battle. Now, let's kick it off with just kind of reminiscing and taking a look back at the previous chapter's last panel, right? Let's settle this once and for all. Sano Manjiro, Takamichi declares, as he leads Toman into battle on their motorcycles. Now, let's get into the summary of this chapter. The scene opens up and it's basically the face-off to end all face-offs. We immediately see that Toman is overwhelmingly outnumbered by the forces of Kanto Manjikai. However, we see that there's not a shred of fear in anyone's eyes, and that goes for like both sides, by the way, right? We see Toman showing determination, and we see Kanto showing determination, right? But Toman is not intimidated at all. We get a little bit of exposition and we see that it's 500 Kanto versus 50 Toman. And when that realization sets in, then we start to see a few doubts appear from some of the other members of Toman, but not Takamichi, who stays steadfast in the face of these overwhelmingly significant odds, right, against them. It looks like he never breaks eye contact with Mikey, which is like very reminiscent of a fighter stare down at like weigh-ins, right? Now, despite that, we see that the members of Toman have some scores to settle, right? Immediately, like, kind of, we see what's going to happen with the pairing off in future chapters, right? It's like Chifuyu versus Mochi, Hakai versus Haitani, well, the elder Haitani brother. It looks like Senju is genuinely surprised that Waka and Benkei have defected over to the Kanto side. Big shout out to Peion for saying what everyone is thinking. Do we have any chance of winning, right? Then we hear the first bit of dialogue coming from the Kanto side. It's Mikey with the coldest look in his eyes, which seems to be the look that he has maintained throughout this entire final arc, right? Just that coldness, that deadness, that lack of emotion / empathy, right? And he basically says that there's no need for another Toman, right? We can't have two Tomans coexisting, even though, now it's Kanto for him. But Haruchio basically picks up on that cue and starts to talk down to Toman, like typical, I want to say, like, hood gangster styles. Like, what are y'all even doing? This ain't kid games, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. Y'all are a bunch of losers, right? Purely an intimidation tactic. In pure Takamichi fashion, though, he taps into that stubbornness / bravery that he's known for, and he counters Haruchio's smack talk, and in the process just basically buffers up everyone's resolve and courage, and it culminates in this line, "Let's go, Sano Manjiro," right? Mikey just says, "Come on." We end on basically what amounts to a 90s X-Men animation style clash. Like, think Brotherhood of Evil Mutants versus the X-Men, right? But this time it's like, I want to say the Kanto Manjikai XX minus Mikey versus, Takamichi and the Toman crew. Let's get into the review. I normally don't really like this much exposition leading to a final battle or final arc, but for this style of story, basically like the world that has been developed throughout this entire story, I think it was necessary. Ken Wakui, the author, knows what he's doing. Now, I do want to say that my overall opinion, if you guys paid attention to the last two reviews, right? My overall opinion hasn't changed much. Like, there's no way that Toman is not going to suffer some heavy losses. However, after reading this chapter, I do feel like some questions have arisen, right? I think the questions I have might be, or at least the answers to these questions might be the secret to whether or not second generation Toman can pull off this seemingly impossible victory, right? Because, I mean, if it's a shonen manga, like, there's no way the protagonist can't win, right? That's not how this works. I mean, like I said, there'll be some heavy losses, but there's no way that good doesn't win over evil. Now, before we actually get into these questions, let's talk about Takamichi's good luck charm, which was kind of prominent throughout a lot of these panels. And it looks like before Takamichi even has the chance to confront Mikey, he's going to have to get past Kakucho. And if you remember Tenjiku, he didn't really get past Kakucho. But here are my questions. Kanto is already strong, right? Like, just if you look at the executives alone, forget even the executive, just off of Mikey's strength, it looks like it was unnecessary to bring 500 members to this battle. they could easily get by with either 50 members or just with the execs or just with Mikey by himself. So why bring such an overwhelming number of members to stomp out Toman? It doesn't really make sense, and it smacks a little bit of fear on the Kanto side, right? But I guess it's like if you're looking at it from their perspective and you know like all of Takamichi's escapades, you look at his track record, they know that he might be able to pull a miracle out of nowhere, so maybe they're just trying to counter that possibility, right? The next question I have is like, why would Haruchio make that speech, right? You guys are quoting him. You guys are obviously no match for us. If you want to make memories, go somewhere else. That sounded like Kanto giving Toman an opportunity to back out of this somewhat gracefully. Like, it's like, hey, low key, this is your we're giving you guys a chance here. If you want to back out of this, let there be no bloodshed. You know, at the end of the day, y'all were like our former teammates to a certain degree, you know. But those are the questions I had. Like, I think there's going to be something to be developed there, especially with the second question, right? Now, finally, I want to say, like, I really appreciate how Takamichi is just not phased at all. He maintains that stoic look, that eye contact, focused on Mikey the whole time. Even when he's responding to Chifuyu's doubts, to Peion's doubts or whatever, it's like he's not breaking eye contact. Like I said, similar to the weigh-ins, like first person look away, it's gonna lose. So that first victory is like maintaining that eye contact the whole time, right? Speaking of which, right, remember, like I said before, if you think of Takamichi's track record, it's not the first time that Takamichi, as a part of the old Toman, has faced overwhelming odds. Like, think about Bloody Halloween, think about Valhalla, think about the Black Dragons, think about the Tenjiku arc, right? They've always seemed to overcome those, but that's also because they were all on the same side. Mikey and Takamichi, that is, right? Think back to like Draken, R.I.P., right? Like they were all on the same side. Now, it still might be a whole different story going against Mikey. Regardless of the outcome, like I said, and like I will continue to say, Toman is going to suffer some heavy losses. My Hail Mary theory, I could potentially see Waka and Benkei playing traitor. Very low probability, but it's like that fact that Senju was so surprised that they defected, and we've seen that before, right? Like Baji defected, but it was really because he was investigating Kisaki, right? But he had to make it look like he was really defecting to Valhalla, you know, to go help out Kazutora or whatever. And to be fair too, he did like care for Kazutora, right? But he was trying to investigate Kisaki. Could we have something similar happening between Waka, Benkei, and Senju? We don't know. Last thought, why is Hama wearing a face mask now, right? It seems like, I mean, that's not uncommon to see that, like, with the Yankee culture or whatever. If you've read, like, any of those manga, like, for instance, like, Great Teacher Onizuka, that's not an uncommon look. But it does seem a little suspicious. Why is he hiding his face? Like, he did take some damage during that Tenjiku arc, too, but, I don't think he had any, like, facial scars like that. I don't know, I'm curious. Either way, I am once again hyped for the next chapter. And as always, if you guys like what you're hearing, please feel free to hit up the main podcast and give it a follow at NowMindYouPod on Instagram. And as always, thank you guys for listening. And of course, if you have any thoughts, you want to get that discussion going, please put your comments down below. If you saw this on Reddit, don't hesitate to comment on this on Reddit. But appreciate you all as always. Have a great week. I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.